Hey, Mystic Michaela spiritual family. Welcome to Know Your Aura with Mystic Michaela. Today, we are going in and talking about the 27 Club. Don't know what that is? Well, you will know all about it today. A bit of a trigger warning. I don't know what's going to come up. We are going to be talking about overdoses, death by suicide, possible suspicious death. I'm going to be attempting to connect with mediumship, so I don't know what's going to come up. So this episode is perhaps not for little ears, or if you're feeling a little sensitive energetically today. But first, hey, Scotty.
Hey, guys.
So you're very pumped.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, the idea was given to me by one of the members of the discussion groups. I cannot remember for the life of me which group it was.
Right.
And if I said a group, I know I'm going to get it wrong.
Right.
But I looked into the topic of the 27 Club, which is it really is fascinating to me. And let me just tell you what it is. Now, a lot of people do know what this is already, but if you don't.
I didn't know.
Oh, you didn't know?
I did not know.
Okay, so I had heard of it, but I wasn't too sure on exactly what it was. But basically, it was a group of musicians who died at a very young age, the age being 27, in the peak of their careers. The club was formed from 1969 to 1971. Mm-hmm. Okay, there's 4 original members of this club. And, obviously it's not a real club, metaphorical club. Okay, so you have Brian Jones of the Rolling Stones, who died on July 3rd, 1969. You have Jimi Hendrix, who died September 18th, 1970. Janis Joplin, who died October 4th, 1970. And it concludes with Jim Morrison of The Doors, who died on July 3rd, 1971. Now, that is considered to be the club. Now, I don't think they called it the 27
And they were
Club.
all 27.
And they were all 27.
That's the whole point. Yeah,
they all died at 27. Yeah, exactly.
They all died at age 27.
Right, not 28, not 26. All were 27. And 2 actually died on the same day. Brian Jones and Jim Morrison, different years, but the same day of July 3rd. Now, looking this up, there's many musicians who died before them, this time period of 1969 to 1971, and there's many musicians who have died after this time period, most before was Robert Johnson, who was a blues guitarist, died in 1938.
He was 27?
27.
Oh, wow.
But you could go through a whole list and find more people that were in the music industry that died at 27. And then after 1971, you have Kurt Cobain, of course. Most people know who Kurt Cobain was, Nirvana. He died April 5th, 1994. And Amy Winehouse, most people know who she was. Even I knew the Rehab song.
Yeah.
She died July 23rd, 2011.
And we're going to be talking about them as well.
Yeah, we're going to take all, except for I think Robert Johnson, who we couldn't find too much information on. We're going to take the 4 original members of the club, Kurt Cobain, Amy Winehouse, and we're going to try to figure out all of them today.
Okay.
All of them.
Let's do it.
But I just want to note that the club actually didn't form in the early 70s.
You mean the name of it?
The name of it.
Mm-hmm. And the notoriety of it?
And the notoriety.
That's what you're saying?
Yes. Because the notoriety came when Kurt Cobain died. And I can explain that maybe when we get to Kurt Cobain.
Okay, and that's when people were like, hey, wait a second.
Yeah, this is a
little weird.
Yeah, This is a little weird. I mean, people thought it was weird after Morrison died, but really got weird after Kurt Cobain. But again, I have theories on this stuff.
And I personally, I've always known of these artists. I was never a fan, so you'll have to fill me in on the details. But I like that better, that I don't know a ton about the artists, aside from possibly their greatest hits or something. I don't know a lot about them personally.
Okay.
So I'm, yeah.
Yeah, and again, when I did the research on all these, and I didn't know either, by the way. I'm not like a walking encyclopedia of musicians from the 1970s. I had to look it up myself. I came to a more 3D conclusion. But I think and again, we don't know what's going to happen today because you're going to attempt mediumship on all these people,
right?
And I don't know. I'm not. I'm going to keep an open mind during it, and we'll see where it goes. I know that we definitely can tie this maybe into start with numerology, number 27.
Yeah. So there's 2 things that I think are really interesting about the 27 Club. 1, the number 27, and 2, something astrological. But let's start with the number 27. So I wrote the Angel Numbers book, and 27, the way I interpret it, is about the life plan. It's about aligning your life plan with your soul plan. And it's about reflecting and considering what you want in life versus what you think you should do. So 27, for me, when I consult it in that manner, in that celestial realm, is really about thinking, what am I doing with my life? What's going on? What's happening here? And I feel like that's the age that a lot of us do have those moments. And so I think it's kind of crazy. Like, I got chills when I'm like, 27, like that's what that means, life plan and planning out the rest of your life and really thinking about it, which can truly stress people out.
Yeah.
All right. And then the second thing is something called the Saturn return. Now, I am not an astrologist. I think it's super cool and I love astrology. But so I'm going to explain this just very simply. And we've all gone through it. So the Saturn return is basically, according to astrology, the reason why you have kind of like a freak out in your late 20s. So we all, and I was thinking about that because when I was 27, I literally went crazy. Like I was pregnant with Bree. That's when I walked out of my job and never went back. I had a total life crisis. You were like, hey Meg, are you okay? Like I went through it too. I think a lot of us have gone through something around that age. And according to astrologers, it's because of this thing called the Saturn return. So Saturn takes about, 27 to 30 years from the day you were born to return back to its original natal chart placement. And Saturn is like the taskmaster planet. So depending, and you can look this up in your own birth chart. Okay, I know how you feel.
Okay, wait.
I believe this stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah, okay, so two holes here, first of all. Okay, so 27 to 30, but all these people died at 27. And then basically what you're telling me is because Saturn is in the spot where it was when I was born, my life becomes a mess.
Yeah, so Saturn, when it just, and I am not an astrologer, but as it comes back to your natal chart original placement, it can disrupt a lot of things. And it's really about acknowledging and understanding and processing like where you're at life, and it's about adulting, and Saturn's associated with like a lot of personal responsibility and being a responsible figure in your life, and kind of just that adult figure you feel like you need to be, but you're not there yet.
Okay, and I know you probably can't answer this, and I know there's probably a million astrologers out there
they're all
listening.
like, we can tell you everything about it. Yeah, and it depends where it is in your house too. Okay. You can go check that to see where exactly it can bother you.
Why would where a planet is in space decide what I'm going to do on Earth?
We can't help you with your distrust of astrology, but we can tell you that it's a pretty weird coincidence that between 27 and 30 is when a lot of people have kind of like these life crises. How am I going to grow up? I mean, you moved back home, I think, at that time. And you were not a happy camper. I remember you at 27. Like, you moved back home.
That can also be, but that could also be the age that our society has set up in the Western world, by the way.
Of course.
Where, like after you go to college maybe, and then you're like in your mid 20s and you flip a few pizzas for a few years.
Yes. But why is it like that? Why did a society set it up like that? Why does it happen to be like that?
That's just Western society. I don't know.
Right. But why is it like that? And that's true. But why is it like that in the first place? Yeah. Maybe the plant, you could go, the chicken or the egg thing here.
Look, I believe a lot of things. The number thing is actually a little more interesting to me, but I don't know, with Saturn being a certain spot.
You're going to get all the astrologers coming for you.
No, I'm going to get...
I think it would be really cool, and I can't do it because I don't see, to see where your Saturn placement is. Like at 27 or whatever, and see like how it affected you.
Well, I was already impacted because I was born at 11/10, not 11/11. And so that already threw everything off. For me, it's off.
But that's a huge theory with the 27 Club. Okay. When I was looking into it, they were like, it's the Saturn return. Yeah, and they were just extremely affected by it. And a lot of them, and we're going to talk about drugs and addiction and things like that. But why do we self-medicate? To avoid things. So avoid thinking about avoid.
Right. Okay. I mean, and I've heard that theory. And when I was doing the research, a lot of people did bring up the Saturn return thing. So it's not just you. And,
no. This is
so it's a common
This has
thing.
been out there.
Yes, it is mainstream for this. It's not it's not abnormal.
Right. But that's not my specialty. So I'm going to be looking at like auras and trying to connect mediumship wise.
Right.
Now, usually with mediumship, I have to say this because I've said this before. It's hard for me to connect unless I have a link. Like, so if Jim Morrison's sister were here or something, that would be like so much easier for me because he's talking to her. But because these are such public figures, I was already looking at their photos and stuff, getting it all. And I was like, whoa, there's a lot of energy here because they still exist in their music, which is, I'm going to talk about that.
So we're saying it might not be the easiest task for you to connect to these people. Some people you might not be. And again, we don't know this yet.
I don't
because
know.
We haven't
attempted, but the pictures gave me a lot of vibes.
So there could be some people that you connect with a little bit more, a little bit less.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We're going to do an ad. When we come back, we're going to take Brian Jones of the Rolling Stones.
Hey, Scotty.
Hey, guys.
Your hair is looking awfully, particularly extra luxurious today.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple bathrooms in the house that are off limits to me, but I've been sneaking in. And I stole your pros.
That's where the pros went.
Yeah. Haven't you noticed my hair is softer, smells much better, and is stronger?
I have noticed that. Well, you know that Prose knows there's more to you than just your hair type. Prose has given over 1 million consultations with their in-depth hair quiz, which is how I got started. They asked me amazing questions that completely surprised me, like my zip code and how much I exercise, how much water I drink. By analyzing over 85 personal factors, Prose determines a unique blend of ingredients to treat your exact concerns. Prose also has a review and refine feature. It lets me tweak my formulas for any reason, like change of address, hair color, or my diet. And as a carbon neutral certified B Corp, Prose is an industry leader in clean and responsible beauty. All their ingredients are sustainably sourced, ethically gathered, and cruelty-free. They're also the first custom beauty brand to go carbon neutral. If you're not 100% positive Prose is the best hair care you've ever had, they will take the products back, no questions asked. Prose is the healthy hair regimen with your name all over it. Take your free in-depth hair consultation and get 15% off your first order today. Go to prose.com/aura. That's Prose, PROSE.com/aura for your free in-depth hair consultation and 15% off. Hey, Scotty.
Hey, guys. All right. So let's get started. We're going to start with Brian Jones of the Rolling Stones. And again, I'm going to take the more logical perspective here. Basically, all these guys and females did drugs and alcohol abuse and all that stuff. And I'm just going to basically say, I'm of the theory that it just happens to be 27. It was a coincidence. They were all doing heavy drugs.
They lived hard.
Careers. They lived hard. Of course they died.
They had limitless resources to fund this lifestyle. Okay, got it.
Yeah. All right. So the first one we take is Brian Jones, the Rolling Stones. July 3rd, 1969 is the day he died. He actually was the one that gave the Rolling Stones their name. So, he created the name the Rolling Stones. Didn't get along too well with the band. And in fact, Keith Richards, who's, I don't know if he's the most famous member of the band, probably Mick Jagger is, but Keith Richards is also pretty famous. He actually, I think he stole his girlfriend.
Oh, God.
Like that, yeah. Obviously, heavy drinking, heavy drugs. After Keith Richards stole his lady, he kind of got depressed, went, kind of withdrew within himself. I think he moved out to some farm or something.
Oh, okay.
And he parted way with the Rolling Stones June of 1969. So he got out of that band really early. Obviously.
So he started it and then left it?
He kind of he started it, one of the co-founders, and he left it.
Okay.
And obviously we know the Stones, I think, are still touring today.
Yeah.
So he left it 50 years early.
Wow.
So interesting. Do you have his colors, by the way?
So, yeah, I have as a picture, I guess a 27. His aura, and, he's passed and I never knew him. So this is just me giving you what I'm getting. He is yellow and green, which is a really off combo. And there's purple in there too. And there's no way, I guess what I'm trying to say is he feels like a difficult person. And he feels like somebody who was very self-serving in a lot of ways. And he feels very, very smart. What's interesting to me is when I look at him, I don't get a feeling. It's different than the other people we're going to be talking about. Okay, so when I do mediumship and I energetically read a photo, I can tell overdose feels a certain way, and accidental death feels a certain way, and it's somebody else's fault feels a certain way, or death by suicide feels a certain way. This guy feels like it's somebody else's fault. And, and I 100%, like, that's what I get off his picture. He didn't want to die. I feel like he had other plans. I feel like he was somebody who was too invested in vengeance, or like, I'm going to show them or something.
Yeah, that could be.
To do anything to mess that up. And, you know, addiction's a terrible affliction. Don't get me wrong. And I am not an expert on that or anything, but he has less of an addict vibe. So I know I don't know how it's just what I'm getting, people. So I don't want to like trigger anybody, but I get like various levels of addiction with people. And some people, it's like, oh man, they love it. You know, they are just in it. He feels like he's more playing at it, and definitely more than you should be. But at the same time, I don't know. Like, he's got more love for life than a love for drugs or something.
Okay. And that is interesting because, yeah, I don't think he wanted to die on July 3rd, 1969 either, because doing a little research, he was actually forming another. It's interesting you said
That's
revenge.
Interesting.
Because he was actually forming another band.
Oh, wow.
Trying to form another band to compete with the Rolling Stones and Keith Richards.
Yeah, that was
get them back.
See, that was his drug. Yeah. Like, that was his intensity. Yeah. Like, that was his thing he latched onto. Like people like that, like, they live on the pulse of things. And drugs can kind of be a little bit of all right, wasting time with this, but they really enjoy something like that, like business dealings and kind of getting ahead, getting back at people, or whatever.
Yeah.
Business stuff more than the drugs. Like, because he knows, like, and so there's something weird here.
Yeah. And also, does that also pick up in his colors? Because you said he's mostly yellow and green. I don't know, like, I assume certain colors are more prone to destructive behaviors.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's
destructive to other people.
Yeah. And themselves. Right?
Of course. But he feels, and he's passed, yes. So I don't like to speak ill of those who've gone, but he does not feel like the most easiest person to get along with. He feels like he's very difficult, and he feels like he was a hard person to feel compassion for. Gosh. And he just feels like he was in it to win it. Yeah. Like, he was in it for himself. Very intelligent, very smart. I have a picture of him as a little kid. He's so cute.
What colors was he as a little kid?
The only picture I found, he looks like maybe 2, maybe 3. So he is really young, which is harder for me to grab an aura. But in this one, he looks more like yellow purple as a kid. And so I feel like, and he feels like he's got a bit of he's only 3, but and this is kind of a weird thing to get off a kid picture, like a chip on his shoulder. And sometimes people like that, they're like, listen, life's a hustle. Like, nobody held my hand, and I can't do that for you. Life's a hustle. Figure it out. I'm going to hustle. This is how I play the game, like that. So something as a little kid, I feel like he learned real quick. Yeah. And I don't know what his childhood was like, but I get him learning real quick, like, figure it out, because nobody's going to figure it out for you. That kind of vibe. And how it feeds into his life.
I mean, there was a lot of mystery surrounding his death. Obviously there was drugs in his system. Most people say it was drugs. Mm-hmm. But there's other theories.
How did he die?
Okay, so he died. He was at this, I think he used to live like on a farm when he died. Okay. By the pool. Some people thought it was an asthma attack, drugs. But then he was with a girlfriend at the time. Okay. And the girlfriend at the time said she said he was murdered.
Oh, wow.
She claimed he was murdered.
Oh, I got chills.
Yeah. Nobody really put much stock into that. But according to your reading, it's possible.
Honestly, like, my interpretation from this, and just like the vibe I get off of his picture, is somebody else did it. Okay. So, I mean,
he could have been in bed with other...
Who knows? But my feeling is like... Because it's the same feeling I'll get when it's like somebody else's fault. Okay. Like that. And he feels like pissed about it. Yeah. So, all
right. So maybe there's something to the fact that he was murdered.
Yeah.
And he
I don't know.
And he did.
Yeah. I mean, obviously we're just we don't know. Right. This is our energetic perspective.
The hard part with this is that when all of these when we go through every one of them, they found some sort of drug in the system.
I know.
So it's hard to I guess, dispute it or defeat that.
You know what our problem is with our culture? Like, the second somebody has something in their system, they're, like, devalued as a human.
Yeah.
And they're seen as less than and completely untrustworthy. And everything's just, like, it's like anything that is, like, whatever, drugs. Like, that becomes the reason for it. And so much can get brushed over because of that. And that's really sad because good people just get into bad situations, or drugs are just such an insidious thing. Anyways.
All right.
I wonder.
All right. So
I don't know.
Her girlfriend was there, and she said he was killed.
Oh, really?
So
and there's something off about it. And from his vibe, like if I was reading him for like a family member, I'd be like, there's something to it. Like I couldn't say otherwise to that. Just the vibe I'm picking up.
I mean, not to sound insensitive here, but it might have been for the best. Because he left the greatest band on earth.
Awful.
Yeah, I know.
You just said that.
But think about it. You talked about how he's got this revenge thing.
Oh, yeah.
And the Rolling Stones go on to be maybe one of the greatest bands of all time.
Yeah.
Depending, on your opinion of them. But could he have lived another 50 years in that shadow?
I think from his vibe, they wouldn't have been the best band. He would have totally, what's the word, usurped them or something. He would have
created another band.
Yeah,
it would
have been like another band coup.
Okay.
And there would have been like a rivalry, and maybe they would have just been like tossed off. Who knows?
Okay.
But I think it would have been a lot more difficult for Rolling Stones.
Okay, if he had survived.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe it was something.
Because I feel like from his perspective, he was winning this.
Oh.
And that's why it's so weird to.
That's weird. Yeah, that's crazy.
It's not that, because how do I explain this? If you know somebody, if you've ever loved an addict, which I have, and I feel like a lot of people get it, there's a difference. Some they love it. They love the drug. Like there's this relationship with the addiction that is the most important relationship. He doesn't have that feeling.
Yeah.
His relationship is with power. His relationship's with like making it, proving it, hustling, making a point. That's his relationship. Drugs were just to me, I feel like they were kind of more recreational.
Okay. All right. So we're off to an interesting start here.
Yeah.
Already my theory is getting a little bit knocked down. All right. Jimi Hendrix is our next one.
Okay.
Maybe, September 18th, he died September 18th, 1970. He is considered by some to be the most influential guitarist of all time. He's, maybe there's no one ever been better on a guitar than Jimi Hendrix. Again, of course, that's an opinion, but it's possible that he is the greatest of all time. I mean, people could argue that, but nonetheless. Jimmy, tough childhood, very poverty, family life was horrific. I think I even read somewhere that he, before he even got a guitar, he was practicing with a broom.
That's so sad.
Yeah, real sad life as a child, poverty, and he dies of a drug overdose in the city of London. He was staying with a girlfriend. Again, there always seems to be a significant other with them too. But
they're probably never alone either. I can't imagine a lot of people at this level not having an entourage or a crew or somebody.
Right. Now, when he died, he wasn't staying at his usual place. I forgot the names of the hotels, but they said he used to stay at these really fancy hotels where the wait staff would dote over him, just treat him like a king.
Yeah.
But when he died in the very seedy hotel, very bad area. He had taken, they believe, 9 sleeping pills, prescription sleeping pills of his girlfriend.
God.
But they said even 1 or 2 could, and with mixing with things could kill you. The girlfriend claims she didn't even know he was dead for a while. This is based on the police report after. And he dies in his own vomit.
Oh.
I mean, now, there's a lot of controversy around this one, too. Now, he does leave... Well, the controversy around this thing is, did he have to die? The police get there real late. Yeah. They could have got there quicker. Mm-hmm. The girlfriend maybe delayed it. Maybe she didn't know what was going on. Maybe she thought he'd be okay. A lot of people also said that, the police didn't even know who he was. They thought he was just a junkie. And this gets back to your point that you made earlier.
Yeah. Junkie. It's black. Yeah. It's that time period. It's the seedy hotel.
Yeah. We're not going to go and rush over to that part of town. It's just another junkie who overdosed. Right. And hey, hey, there's something to say that, just because you're a great guitarist doesn't give you any.
Oh, you're trying to say that if people are saying if he stayed at a better hotel, he would have received better attention and quicker attention and could have lived.
Right, because I'm saying the staff was always on top of him.
Right.
They would have known this really right away.
Right.
And they would have been on top of it. They would have got the ambulance, police there, and and they would have saved his life.
Yeah, because they don't want him to be dying in their hotel.
Exactly.
That's the other thing.
Right. And they were on top of him. Like, they were treating him like gold.
Yeah.
But also, I'm also going to make the point here that, just because you're Jimi Hendrix or whoever, I don't feel you deserve
You're
special
trying
treatment.
to say, like,
so that's another whole other point.
Yeah, that's a whole other.
But I'm not going to go there. But all right.
So you're watching the class system play here. How money plays into it, how class, money, all that.
Yeah, because now at the CD hotel, he's just another junkie. Whereas at the other hotel, he's a rock star junkie.
He's like the best customer.
Yeah,
he's like the most important guest.
He's a junkie.
Because, you've got money.
Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah. Right, right.
Now, some people say he left a suicide note behind, a poem.
Okay.
But, so this one might have actually
Is that open to interpretation, though? Because he's probably writing all the time.
It's open to interpretation. Yes,
yeah.
That's correct. So what's Jimi
This
Hendrix
one
colors?
kills me because when I look at him, this one kills me. He's so sweet.
Yeah.
So he's so sweet. Like, he's such a kind person. Oh my God, I'm getting emotional. He's like a really, really kind person. And I just get this overwhelming feeling of apology. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is what I get when somebody dies by accident. That's what I get usually in an overdose. I didn't mean to do that. Whoa, that was a mistake. Oops, like that. And just, because I talked about this on another episode. Sometimes when people do this, they have to sit there on the other side. This is just what I get when people die. Sometimes like they have to sit there and they have to see like the ripple effects. And, they're like, oh my gosh, look what I put this person through and this person through. I'm so sorry. So I just get that from him. So it kills me a little. He's very blue. He's blue and purple. Okay. He's got a little green. So he's got a tricolor thing. The blue's real deep. I could even say indigo or something. So he's a sensitive soul. I also have a picture of him as a little kid. I mean, this like absolutely kills me because he is such a sweet baby and so joyful. And music was probably his escape. I mean, he was probably some sort of a genius, like a completely unrecognized genius, very old soul, old for his years, trying to constantly. And I just get from his childhood picture, probably a lot of transience, so a lot of like moving around different homes, like not as bad. So he had to go in himself a lot to find any sort of stability or and I feel like a sibling around him, like I do feel a sibling around him that was close. Anyways, but I feel like with him, he probably just never got over all the horrific things that happened to him in his childhood. And it just got too much. The drugs are too good at blocking out the stuff that's too painful to deal with. And it just was a cycle. And it's just, this is a shame. This just feels like a shame to me. And just people, and those people at like the hotels and stuff who treat, they're not helping anybody. You're enabling for money. And I can see that just that's what happens when you have all this money and then you have an addiction problem. Yeah. People are just like, okay, yeah, whatever. Just stay happy. They don't care about you. And nobody ever cared about him. And he got all this money and he was still that little kid that nobody cared about. Yeah. So it's amazing. Like he got to this level and he got all this wealth and money and people still didn't care about him. And that's just like an amazing thing. Like he wasn't able to fix it, and he tried so hard, and so this one just makes me sad.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
And I was never. I'm not. I guess I wasn't a fan of his music. I mean, so I don't really know a lot about his music, but I can imagine a lot of soul in there. A lot of pain.
He comes out of Woodstock.
Oh, okay.
1969's Woodstock, and he comes out. He did the Star Spangled Banner, and that's like he has the anthem of that time period.
Wow.
That's the anthem of that counterculture time period of the 70s, and it started with Hendrix.
The national anthem on the guitar. I feel like I've heard that
on the
before.
Guitar. Yes, you've heard it before.
I'm gonna make a playlist after this,
yes,
like a Spotify playlist. I'm gonna put all this stuff in there, so you can go.
So I mean, it's like this fame that just like blows up, and
it's too big
pressure. Yeah, there is pressure. There's something to say about this pressure.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
Especially he's a sensitive guy.
Yeah, especially with being a purple. You said maybe indigo.
Oh yeah,
imagine that. And now you have the weight of the nation, the Vietnam War is going on. You have all this, and you just gave the anthem of the counterculture to take on Vietnam and the establishment.
Wow.
And presidents like Johnson and those guys.
Yeah.
So all right,
that makes me sad.
Yeah, that's a sad one. Yeah, when I was reading his story, it was really sad. I mean, I really kind of felt that this one didn't have I mean, all of them didn't have to happen, but you really feel this.
He looks older than 27 too. Like I have his
Yeah.
recent photo, like the recent photo closer to his death. I mean, he looks older.
He looks older.
You know, and I feel like that's just his soul was older. He lived a really hard life.
Okay.
Ugh.
All right. Let's do the ad, one more ad, and then when we come back, we're going to do the second half of the 27 Club.
There is no truer way to say I love you than by taking care of one another. That's why this year, the gift of health, it's all you need. And with Everlywell, you can find 30 plus at-home lab tests, vitamins, supplements, and more for every person on your holiday list. I've gotten so many messages from KYA listeners saying that they love to give Everlywell as a gift to the people in their life. Everlywell is a digital healthcare designed for you with personalized results and accessible tools for long-term health. With over 30 at-home lab tests and high-quality vitamins and supplements, you'll be able to find the perfect test for you or your loved one. The women's health, food sensitivity, and celiac disease screening tests are only a few of the options. Here's how it works. Everlywell ships products straight to you or your loved one with everything needed in one package. If you ordered an at-home lab test, the sample can simply be collected at home and shipped back to a certified lab in the prepaid envelope included with the test. Digital physician-reviewed results are sent straight to your preferred device in just days. If you ordered vitamins and supplements, you can start adding them to your daily routine right away. It's so simple. Over 1 million people have trusted Everlywell to support their health and wellness goals, and now you can help your loved ones do the same. Because I had such a great experience with the food sensitivity test, I've been sending it to my family members, and it's just a great starting point for them, like it was for me, to take a closer look at some things and then bring them to the doctor. And it's just been eye-opening. The gift of health has never been so easy to share than it is this holiday. For listeners of Know Your Aura podcast, Everlywell is offering a discount of 20% off an at-home lab test at everlywell.com/KYA. That's everlywell.com/KYA for 20% off your next at-home lab test. everlywell.com/KYA. Hey, Scotty.
Hey, guys. All right, so let's continue on with Janis Joplin.
Okay.
So her death, October the 4th, 1970. Some people consider her the queen of rock and roll. She actually, it's funny. I didn't know many Janis Joplin songs either. I mean, again, with all these musicians so far, I think you as well. The one I know the best is The Doors, but her most famous song is funny. She came out after she died. Me and Bobby McGee. She died in her hotel room in Hollywood, California. Had a lot of issues with heroin. So she was a big heroin addict. She was also going through issues with her boyfriend at the time.
Yeah.
He wasn't treating her right. I think a lot of her music was about, men not treating, or people not treating her the way she should be treated. And what's her colors?
Well, she's fascinating. She's turquoise.
Okay.
But she's got green too. It's kind of like a green coise.
A green coise? Okay.
But a lot of turquoise, very imbalanced.
Yeah.
And, looking at her older pictures, it's hard to find a picture where she doesn't seem, not contained energetically. That's like the best way I can describe it. She feels like she leaves pieces of herself all over the place, lets other people, she really lives in other people's space a lot. She doesn't call that energy back to her. I feel like I can see where probably a lot of her music is just lamenting about things that she doesn't feel like there's closure about, or there's places where she can feel at peace, because I feel like she left parts of herself in all these places. And when you do that, you can't find peace. It made for amazing music that really hits us, and then we understand. And so in true turquoise fashion, she's healing us with her own pain, and she's attempting to help, connect to us. And I feel like that's a big thing with her. Nobody really was able to connect to her.
Yeah.
So in such an evaporated way, she was all over the place all the time. And that's how we can remind ourselves to be seen. I feel like her music saw us. And I don't listen to her music either. So but I can see that from her and her energy. So being such an artist, I got a picture of her as a little kid.
Okay.
I feel so bad because she's a little turquoise green kid.
Aww.
And she feels different, you know, like she feels a little different than the other kids. Like a lot of turquoise, like if you're a turquoise green, you're gonna feel that way. I can see her being, I mean, just not gender conforming either, according to typical societal standards. I can see her being like, well, you know, I would rather wear pants than a dress, or not super girly, or more kind of nature vibe, or just like, why can't I have dirty feet? Like, what's the big deal? You know, just kind of doing things that society would make fun of or not call ladylike, especially at the age that she was raised in that generation. I can just see it all really affecting her, and her not taking the pieces of herself back from all those times too. So yeah, it's a shame what happened to her. I think drugs for her were, available and a way to shut out all that noise. Okay.
And it's interesting the way she died. Seems a little turquoisey here.
Oh.
Again, drugs in the system, of course.
Yeah.
Basically, they said that she had dropped a pack of cigarettes. She went to pick the pack of cigarettes up off the floor, smacked her head on a table.
Yeah.
And they found her dead the next day.
Yeah, I can see that too. I should have said that too, because I get this vibe, like, oops.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'll get that with somebody, like, whatever. But she has kind of like a whatever vibe too, like whatever, she feels like a real, even though her music isn't probably chill, she does feel like a very like chill person, like whatever. I can also see her going from 0 to 60 sometimes and being, whoa, like where'd that come from? But if you know a turquoise person, that's kind of normal for them. They'd be like absolutely like zoned out, and the next minute they're like, are you okay? Like, where'd that come from? Like, where is that? So, with her, she kind of gave me, what I see with her, and it's related to the turquoise aura thing. It's kind of like if you were able to put microphones in 1,000 different rooms where people are talking about you, and you have it in your head all the time, all that noise all the time. That's what I feel like she lived like.
Okay. And that makes sense about what I was reading about her. And I think like if she lived in like the TikTok, Instagram era, like all the trolls would have been on her. Like they would have been on top of her, crushing her soul. That, you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Like what you just said makes sense about what I read about her.
Easy to make fun of.
Yeah, like she would have gotten killed on social media.
Because she's so vulnerable. And you know what? She also cares.
Yeah.
She cares.
Yeah.
And when there's something about when somebody cares, it triggers insecurities and trollish people, because they're like, oh man, I care. I better attack my projected issues onto her because I care too. So when somebody else cares, I'm gonna make them suffer for it because I can't fix that in myself. So that's awful.
So she would have had
that's really terrible.
She would have had a tough go at it.
Oh, Janis.
If she was big in this time.
Yeah.
Oh. All right. So the turquoise aura. All right. So the last of the club, and this is kind of solidifies the club. July 3rd, 1971. Remember Brian Jones, July 3rd, 1969. Woodstock was in between that. Was going on. And Jim Morrison is considered the one to solidify it. His girlfriend dies at the same age as well.
Oh, wow.
Again, there's always some significant other involved. Jim Morrison, singer, songwriter, lead singer of The Doors, the band The Doors. Alcohol abuse, the whole way through.
Yeah.
Constant alcohol. That was his biggest thing, was the alcohol. He dies in Paris, and there was a lot going on in his life at the time. And you tell me his colors first, and then we'll get into it a little bit.
Well, he's green and purple.
Okay.
Green purples are always very, especially in the artistic realms, like extremely energetic, engaging, charismatic, some sort of allure. He's got like a cult vibe.
Yeah.
He's got kind of like that guru green thing going on.
Well, they did call it the cult of Jim Morrison.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, because people want to be in his presence. He's got kind of like a heavenly vibration. Even like in his picture, like I said, with mediumship, like just connecting to it, he's bigger than himself. Like there's an ideal around him or something. It almost feels like a religious figure to me. That's what he feels like to me. And a lot of himself was put into his messages, and it feels like to me he lives through a lot of that. So he feels like talking to him, you'd be like just oh my God, yes, everything you say is true. Let me follow you. Let me do what you say. Yes, anything. And people want to be around that.
Yes.
So he gives me like chills.
Yeah, you're freaking me
like
out.
all the empaths would be like, okay, what do you want me to be? And I'll be that. Like, cause, and he's like handsome too. So there's that. And he makes this amazing music. And
I know you didn't know this going in.
I know what the Doors were.
Yeah,
because like growing in high
thing,
school, like a lot of the kids were into that, but I never was. So,
no, you got, and actually you got to blow my mind here a little bit because I know you don't know this stuff. Yes, he was like a cult leader.
Oh wow!
The band didn't particularly like him because they felt he put those ideals above the music.
Yeah,
but he also made the band himself because he was probably. I mean, I don't even want to say this, but I think he was responsible for most of the cool lyrics of the Doors. But again, I can't say that.
But you don't know for sure.
Yeah, I don't know for sure, and
right.
I don't want to take it away from anyone else who was in the band. I would feel terrible about that.
Yeah.
But he did at concerts. He got the concert he got most in trouble with is he encouraged the people to rise up and riot at a concert in Miami.
Oh.
And he played a game of Jumanji there too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, exposed himself,
right.
blah, blah, blah. And he got into huge legal trouble for doing these things, like exposing himself, and he would incite riots and tell people to rise up.
Like a New World Order thing.
Like a cult, right. And again, we know the time period, as we already said. So he actually was convicted.
Oh, really?
He actually was convicted of playing Jumanji in public.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Did he go to jail or anything?
Well, then he dies. So
okay.
I think. Well, then he went to Paris. So I don't know. He served.
All right.
Yeah, it was kind of fishy after that.
I don't know if people live like that.
But the band was always upset with him because he would push that envelope. I think even on one of the big. I can't remember. I think on and this I'm just doing off the cuff. I think it was one of the Tonight shows or something. They had the Doors on. And I'm remembering this back from like the documentary. And I think they cursed or something, or they said something about being high like my fire or something.
Okay.
Like being high, and the network like freaked out.
Yeah, it's a funny time to be like that too.
Yeah, and
everyone's so buttoned up.
Yeah, whatever channel it was on, they just all freaked out. And then all the other major networks like canceled them. They were canceled. The Doors got canceled by the execs.
Like they couldn't be on like real TV anymore.
Exactly.
Or that kind
and
of
the
thing.
band was like, always like, we could be huge here, and you're knocking us down. You're knocking us down. Now you're in these legal issues. We got to pay your legal bills. It was a mess.
So he's got the Guru Green thing going on. So he wants. It's more interesting for him to have followers than fans.
Yeah.
He wants followers. There's a difference.
Yes.
He wants followers.
Yes.
He wants people.
He would have.
I have a picture of him as a little kid too.
Okay.
Like he kind of concerns me as a child as well. Like he feels like a very intelligent, but in that way where you're like, what are you thinking? What are you thinking? What are you thinking? Like that, he would make me a little nervous. Like I can see him probably in typical green kid fashion, not paying attention to things that aren't interesting to him. And being an artistic kid too, so kind of going into his own worlds a lot. And I don't know what this means, but I almost feel like the drug states he would get into would match more accurately how he wanted to view the world or something. Was he doing psychedelics and stuff too?
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
All these guys.
Because there's a lot of psychedelic vibes with him. Okay.
All right, so interesting. He dies in the bathtub, so obviously, playing Jumanji, dying bathtub. He would have been a KYA listener if he was still around. But
dark.
Yeah.
Dark Scott.
40% of people listen in the tub or shower. But anyway, again, there was no autopsy. In Paris at that time, you didn't need, I don't know if it's still today, but you didn't need to have an autopsy. So they never knew exactly how he died.
It's hard for me to imagine. He doesn't have the oops vibe or the overdose vibe, or he doesn't really have like that.
Right.
So it's kind of similar. It's interesting because he died on the same day you said as Brian Jones. Like
Yes.
And he's got the same kind of, he's not blaming anyone else, but it's almost kind of a feeling like something weird happened. It feels fishy to me.
I mean, there's, again, it's just kind of like the Brian Jones thing. And that's interesting because we're both July 3rd.
Yeah.
There's our numbers.
And they both have like a fishy death. Like that feels very fishy to me. And it's hard for me to connect to him. Okay. I have to say that. He feels more of an enigma to me than a person. So, I don't know what that means. It'd be much easier if I had like a family member here or something that I could really connect, but he feels more of an enigma to me than a person. And he's even like shushing kind of me a little bit away from him personally and wanting me to talk more about his vibe or his feelings or his kind of like, observations about life or his reality, which I feel like he was probably like that in life. Like if somebody was talking about something he didn't want to talk about, he'd dismiss it and probably be like, no, we're going to talk about this instead, like that. But there's something weird about his death. And I can't put my finger on it, but it feels weird.
Yeah, everything. I mean, people said from heart failure, could be a heroin overdose, all these things. Yeah, that's weird. 'Cause, I mean, with the green purple and being like this cult leader.
Yeah.
And right, why would he, 1971, why would, it's the heart of it. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it feels like he had too much to do. And again, just like Brian Jones, the drugs were kind of like, as part of it. And I'm sure he was addicted.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It doesn't feel the same to me. It doesn't feel right.
Right, because like all the other three you can make, okay, all right, Janis Joplin banged her head.
Yeah,
right?
I get it.
Brian Jones maybe was murdered. Jimmy, okay, that could be the one where,
I get overdose. Yeah, it's sad.
But this one seems very strange.
It's weird.
But
he was odd.
Yeah, he was real odd.
So his energy's odd. Yeah. So the whole thing's, he's different.
All right, so
he lives up to it. He's that's kind of crazy. Okay.
Okay. All right, so that's the.
I get why people still are into him. I get that.
Yeah. It's kind of weird because I've been listening to the Doors prepping for this episode, and I've been singing like "People Are Strange" and all these songs.
About it sucks you in.
Yeah,
I get it now.
And like when I'm listening to them, I'm like, they're not great songs, but they're really good songs.
You're like, why do I like this so much?
Like, yeah, it's like, why do I like "People Are Strange"? It's like he almost captured that, like of being. It's really weird.
Yeah,
I know what you're saying, and actually, this one I connected to the most so far of the three, of the four that we've done. Sorry.
All right.
Very, very. Yeah, really, it's really cool. It's kind of like when I got really into the Mothman. I'm getting really into Jim Morrison
right now. They live in their music definitely carries their vibe and their energy and their message. So sometimes with these artists, and that's why I think if you are an artist, put yourself in what you do because it's a way people still channel you even after you're gone. It's something like when somebody listens, like you can. I don't know. It makes it. Yeah, it's a deeper, more profound connection.
All right, now let's fast forward to Kurt Cobain.
Okay.
Was the lead singer of Nirvana, died on April the 5th, 1994. And now so you had the club, and now it's like, okay, now are there going to be copycats, or people knew about this now? What's going on? Now, it's Kurt Cobain's mother that was quoted as saying, "Now he's gone and joined that stupid club. I told him not to join that stupid club." Okay, now it wasn't called the 27 Club at that time of that quote. Mm-hmm. So there's two trains of thought here. Some people think she was talking about joining Jim Morrison and that crew. Other people think she was referring to, he had two uncles that had both, as well,
died by suicide.
Mm-hmm. So nobody knows. But this is where it takes hold. This is where the sensationalism that we feel now of the 27 Club comes to life.
Okay.
Because again, she's saying, don't join that club. Was it Jim Morrison and crew, or was it the two uncles? I don't know. This is where to me, this is where it starts to feel more,
You're saying like society steps in and sensationalizes
it now.
Okay.
Right.
You feel like with the death, it got kind of sensationalized. Yeah. And people...
With the four, I can make a case. All right, yeah.
It's kind of the same time period.
And now it's like, okay, Kurt Cobain, this is, we all know how he died. I think he shot himself. He shot himself in the head. He had attempted suicides beforehand. Mm-hmm. There was a note. Very tough childhood.
Yeah.
Heroin use, drug use.
Yeah.
And there was. Let's do his colors because he's got you told me he's got a very interesting aura.
Well, he's yellow purple, which is. I mean, listen, I'll see a lot of yellow purple boys, but not a lot of yellow purple adult men.
Yeah.
Usually they shed it or move it just because society will, especially that combination will, I don't know, call it feminine, they'll say it's feminine. So he to me feels like, and on top of that, and this is where I'm not a therapist or a professional at all, but he doesn't feel well. So on top of that, there does feel like there is some mental issues at play, some chemical stuff that he could have used probably help with a lot earlier on. When I look at him, I feel like he is hiding himself a lot. I get him hiding himself. I get him not liking to be seen. I get a perfectionist attitude. I worry about his perfectionism with his own body too. There's like a stress with that. And I get him. He does feel like looking at him as a kid. It's actually easier to read him as a kid because there's no drugs in the aura.
Okay, go for it.
So I'll just look at him as a child. He's yellow purple, sweet boy, like just very sweet. He feels like he's got a very active imagination. I could even say possibly he was connecting at spirit at a very young age too, by the way. And maybe nobody told him. Like a lot of kids do this and they're scared of it or something. So I don't know what those stories are, but he feels to me like he is a little nervous and stressed and he doesn't feel stable. And I get him not feeling, there's something with him being a boy that feels weird too. I don't know if he had I know he was married, but I don't know if he had some, like he was more on a spectrum possibly.
In terms of sexuality, you mean?
Yeah, sexual preference possibly or something.
Yeah, I mean, they were huge supporters of the, what now we call the LGBTQ community.
Yeah.
At that time.
Yeah,
so
and that was early.
Ahead of his time for that.
Right.
I think he even had some quotes about saying that he would be with men or it was fluid for him.
I think it's fluid for him.
Yeah.
And I can see that because, I mean, personally, I feel like it is a spectrum of fluidity with preference, just very shaped by cultural standards and norms and like what you can deal with, what you can't. He just feels like he was very more flowy.
Yeah.
And then he felt bad about it too. So like covering it up, being himself, covering it up, being himself, covering it up, being himself. And then like drugs get involved. And then there's probably like some chemical stuff. So I feel, so with him, it feels like it's like a terrible tale of addiction with him. And it makes me sad. I mean, I love Nirvana. Like, obviously, I'm a child of that time.
Had the number one song of that time.
Yeah. So, but he feels like he was all in it. Like, any performance he gave, if that was the last one, that was the last one. Like, live for today, not for tomorrow. Like, he feels extremely self-destructive because there's some core of not liking himself, not feeling worthy, not feeling like he's deserving to be loved. Yeah. And then that makes me wonder, like, what happened to you as a kid? Did somebody hurt you? Because I get something like with that too, like a brokenness, like hurt.
Yeah. And the thing is, he did this all on his own.
Wow.
There was no fanfare with this. Meaning, like, I think he was in a hospital at the time. He left it. They still found him with his armband from the hospital on when he died. He did this alone. Meaning like he didn't make any, this was like something that he just went off and nobody even knew where he was. I think the last guy that talked to him was one of the band members of Guns N' Roses.
That's sad. That's really sad.
Who just they weren't even friends. They were just having to run into each other. That's the last thing. They actually found him on your birthday, at April 8th. Oh, wow. He died April 5th. They found him a few days later. So nobody even knew that. I feel he was really ill and in pain and mental anguish. There was a note. He did leave a note, which is interesting. And he left a note to his childhood imaginary friend.
Yeah, I feel like he was talking to things at an early age, which that makes sense. Can mess with you a bit. And also, if there's chemical imbalances, it can screw up the veil. But looking at his picture, his most recent one to death, I mean, there's so much there's so many drugs in there. There's so much tinge of addiction in his energy. There's so much like mental issues. This is when I get somebody who's died by suicide. It feels like it was too hard to live. Okay. It really was. And if any of us were in his brain, we'd get it. Yeah. That's what it feels like to me. Okay. Like it was just torture for him to be him.
The pressure was just insurmountable.
It was just torture for him to be him.
Yeah.
And I don't know if some of us are given so much talent, but there's a balance. Like, it has to be something has to go.
Yeah.
He was so enormously talented, but there's nothing left to manage it. And nobody was there for him to do that. Yeah. So it's kind of like Jimi Hendrix in a way too, like so much talent. Yeah. It's like so much talent, but nothing left to manage it. Right. There's no balance. Yeah. And
this is the first one where this is a clear-cut case, because if you're taking a shotgun to your head.
Yes.
With the Hendrix, you can make a case he thought he was going to wake up the next day. We don't know.
No. He was suffering.
This is it.
He suffered.
Okay.
Now, that's really sad.
Yeah.
Ugh.
All right, we'll do one last one, and then we'll wrap it up. All right, so the last one is Amy Winehouse. She died on July 23rd, 2011. Again, substance abuse. Her addiction of choice was alcohol. She was a huge Grammy Award winner.
Yeah.
everyone knew the song at the time, Rehab.
Yes, right.
Gotta go to rehab, whatever. Even I knew that song at the time. If I knew the song, it was huge. It's funny, Keith Richards, of the band Rolling Stones, quoted saying to her, she won't be around long if her behaviors don't change. So he obviously knew, kind of maybe that was a nod to Brian Jones, but
they see
it.
Well, also when you're in that industry, you're like, oh no, that one's in deep.
Yeah. And the guy from the Guns N' Roses said the same thing about Kurt Cobain.
Oh yeah, you can tell when they're in deep. Yeah.
Yeah. So again, this is alcohol abuse. Vodka. I think vodka was what did her in. Probably drugs in the system too. But sick of the career. A lot of people, what color is she?
She's very purple.
Very purple.
I mean,
it's like super duper purple.
I mean, it's like a self-destructive, too much of one energy color, hot mess. I mean, it's like, this is another one, like, I can't look at her pictures of Closer to 27 without I'm reading addiction. So it's like hard to even see her through it. Sometimes when I see somebody with so much addiction around them, it's like, you can't, that's what I see. Like, you're not dealing with the person anymore. You're dealing with their ego projection. That's just because of their addiction. Like, you're talking to the addiction, not them. So I see that a lot on her. So it's really sad. Again, though, similar to Kurt Cobain, I feel like there's something mentally again, not a professional, but I feel mental illness off of her. So it's another case where it's like failed by the system. And just she didn't get the right diagnoses, or people didn't know what to do with her. She also feels like kind of difficult to deal with. So I can see her being very stubborn and very creative in her ways of getting out of things, a little manipulative and whatnot, but delightfully talented. So I can see her being somebody, even if you loved her, you lived with her, you're a family member to her or something, it's like when she performs, she's the most healthy. Almost like that. Like, it's almost like releasing it. Like, when she releases it, it's good. When she's on stage, that's her. Like, so you don't want to stop. That's like her lifeblood. Like, you don't want her to stop doing that. But at the same time, just everything else, like the way that it comes together is just so self-destructive. And I feel like she had just that bug in her of self-destruction. Like, it just ate her. It ate her. So anyway, she's blue too, but honestly, she's just mostly purple. I have a picture of her as a kid.
Yeah.
Chill. And I mean, honestly, this feels like there was something undiagnosed in her.
Okay.
And again, I'm not a professional. I hate diagnosing people. It's just energy waves I get off people. It's like, it's like not their fault. Like, something happened. Like, the brain didn't work right or something.
I mean, because I don't know this 100% for sure, but I think of all the people we talked about, she might have had the most stable childhood.
Did she? Okay.
I think one of the most stable.
Looking at her, she feels like, I don't know, like and she feels like a savant too. Like, you knew from the beginning, like, this kid is going somewhere. Like, she's got talent, like real talent. That's what I look at it. And also, just looking at her picture, nobody made her do this stuff. I feel like she wanted to perform. She wanted to get out there. Like, if you're a parent, there's some kids that are never going to get on stage, and there's some kids that are like, well, that put me on stage, and I feel like she was like one of those kids. Yeah. And like, she wanted to do it. So it feels like a fast moving train going like hundreds of miles an hour, and you just cannot stop it. That's what she feels like to me.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. Burn bright. You were really excited about doing this. And speaking of anomalies, while you were doing the research for the 27 Club, you were telling me about a historical anomaly that interested you.
Yeah. I mean, so when I was doing the research for this episode, another thing kind of came back into my head. I used to be a U.S. history teacher, and I kept thinking, wait a second, what was that thing again? Oh yeah, the presidents. So this is crazy. I think this is totally nuts. I always thought when I taught this, it was so fun to teach. Okay, out of our first 5 presidents, right? George Washington's number 1, John Adams is number 2, Jefferson 3, right? Out of the first 5, 3 of them died on July 4th.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Pretty crazy. So Jefferson and Adams. Now, Jefferson, we know, wrote the Declaration of Independence.
Okay.
Adams was was asked to write the Declaration as well. lent some support to
So
it.
they kind of like knew each other.
Yeah, oh yeah, they had like this love-hate thing going on. They liked each other.
I saw Hamilton, so I know all about this.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Okay. Were they in?
No, I don't. That was me being
Hamilton.
sarcastic.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying, like, I have no idea what you're talking about except for like Hamilton. Okay.
The Revolutionary period and the time after comes down to Hamilton. All right, the Broadway play. But anyway, the two of them both died on the same day. Oh. And believe it or not, the day was July 4th.
So they both died on July 4th?
They both died on July 4th, our Independence Day, the day that Jefferson wrote the Declaration.
Okay.
1826.
Oh, they died in the same year,
too? The same year, yeah.
So you're saying they died on the same day and the same year. Did they live near each other?
No. Adams was from Massachusetts. I believe he died in Massachusetts.
Okay.
And Jefferson was Virginia. So.
And if I were teaching, I would have to remind students there was no social media back then or news. Like, seriously, you have to tell kids that.
Yeah.
Because, like, it's so ingrained in them. It's like, oh, it must have been a crazy news day. It's like, I know it took a couple days, right?
Yeah.
So my point is, like, they didn't know each other had died. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. No, actually, it was really kind of funny because Adams, he was on his deathbed. And basically, he was angry about one last thing, not the British or anything like that. It was that Jefferson was going to outlive him. And Adams was older than him. I think he was around 90, and Jefferson was in the 80s. But Adams said, the one thing I, worry about death is that Jefferson still will be on,
That's what he says
on the earth. Yeah,
on his
something
deathbed?
like that. Yeah,
That's
something
funny.
like that. Well, I'm dead. Which is actually kind of funny because what he didn't know, like you said, there's no social media at that time.
Jefferson, you're saying had actually died before him.
Already had died.
All right, so that is very coincidental.
Yeah.
Just for people that aren't historical nerds and like really excited about it like you are right now.
Yeah.
So
I know. I'm thinking
you're
all
like,
these
wow,
things.
it's so cool.
Yeah.
And then another one did too.
And then then Monroe, the fifth president of the United States, died as well on July 4th. Now, not the same year, 1831. Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, 3 out of the first 5 U.S. presidents died on our Independence Day. I mean, is that a coincidence? Like, what is that?
Then you wonder, did they have it in their minds?
Right.
Or what? With this, it's a 27 club. With this, I'm sure there's a lot of these.
Yeah.
You wonder if there's like just a big spreadsheet in the universe and there's just a pattern and we're all in it and we notice it every once in a while. We're like, that's so weird. But if you make mathematically like beautiful mind style, like it would make sense or something. You ever wonder that?
No, it is. It's definitely fascinating.
That's why I think like numerology that's why I believe in it. Like I feel so strongly about it. I feel like we're hitting something there. Like there's some sort of pattern or something. But then I think about it too with animals. How do they always know to migrate? Like today's the day we're migrating. How do they? There's these forces and these pulls and these collective consciousness vibrations that are sent out. Of course, we're open to them too. We might just not understand that we are.
Yeah, I mean that definitely could make sense. I go back to my logic, and I looked at it and I'm like, all right, let me see. Was any other president, like just taking the presidents again for a second? Okay. Did any other president die on July 4th?
Did they?
No, they did not. I went through all the presidents. None other died on July 4th. It was just those 3 out of the first 5. Then I said, like, well, what if I look at, musicians who died at 26? Mm-hmm. Or if I look at musicians died at 31? Right, out of that 27-30 where Saturn returns time period.
Right.
Would I find the list to be exactly the same amount? Would it be within like, a couple points? Like would it be 95 people died versus 100? Mm-hmm. So I mean, I can keep. I love this topic, and I probably could do this.
Yeah, because there's a longer
forever.
list to the 27 Club, by the way.
Yeah, and I did mention that earlier.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, there's this huge list.
Right.
That it just gets this notoriety from Brian Jones to Jim Morrison.
Yeah.
But it was the time period, and they all kind of fit in there.
Every episode we witness your struggle.
I know, it's a struggle.
And it's your struggle between like logic and the paranormal. But what if, Scott?
Yes.
And to everyone listening, what if we just let go of the struggle? What if 2 things can be true? What if there can be a logical, like it could be a coincidence, and also it's weird, and it could be something more than what we're able to explain? What if it's both?
You know what? I'm open to that. I've come a long way in my spiritual journey.
You're always struggling.
Because, and that's the question I get asked the most. Because in one sentence I'll say, yeah, I've seen I've heard ghosts, or I've witnessed a ghost.
Yeah, legit. You will
Yeah.
Die on the hill.
Yeah.
You know what I'm about to say?
I think so.
That the cat spoke to you and was plotting your death.
Exactly.
One of our, we told that story a long time ago.
Yeah. And I will die on my hill that the Joseph, the ghost from the real house, choked me.
Right.
But then in the same sentence, I'll say, I'm not a believer. So it's, it's very strange. Yeah.
It's your struggle.
It's a struggle. Every day I get closer and closer to being that 100% believer.
Maybe you are the struggle.
I feel like I'm in the 75.
We like you in the
80%.
struggle.
Yeah,
that's good. You're like the other side of it. You keep us grounded. It's okay.
Yeah. But I will say one thing, after doing this, I'm not taking any chances. When Bree turns 27 and when Abby turns 27, obviously years apart,
right.
they're going to be in lockdown.
Yeah, they're in lockdown during their Saturn returns.
Yes.
I think that's important to understand.
We need to come up with a plan.
So I have a plan.
Oh, you have one? Oh, good.
Yes, I've been thinking about this since researching the whole Saturn return thing. Because 27 seems to be a hard time for a lot of people. If you went through it, think back. If you're approaching it, you'll be okay. Look for good advice. But I feel like so I'm going to have 2 rooms that's always for them so they can move home. Because I feel like a lot of people move home during that time.
All right.
And then I'm going to have the foster cat sanctuary that you will finally agree to because it will give the children purpose during maybe their Saturn return year.
Okay, so what you're saying is we're going to Brian Jones this, move out to a farm.
Right.
We're going to have a huge barn? Are these outdoor cows? No.
They're foster kitties, whatever.
Okay, there's got to be a
nice setup. And where we can take them in and the children have purpose.
Okay.
Because being a cat lady solves it.
So in essence, what you're telling me is my future, what I have to look forward to is a bunch of cats.
You love the cats.
Running around.
Yeah.
Sure. We already have 3. I'm looking for more than 3.
Right.
And they're going to be just running around somewhere in a farm in North Carolina.
Exactly.
All right.
So that's my plan for them. Do you have a plan? You don't really have a plan.
I was just going to lock them up.
Yeah. See, this is better than that.
Feed them through a little hole in the door.
No. This is better.
But then they would be free. After 30, they're out. They're
you're good.
You're good. Go.
Saturn return's over.
Yeah.
Go find yourself.
Saturn return is over. So, yeah. All right.
So if you're listening to this now, I already did this. Unless my purple took over. But I'm pretty sure I already did this. I made a Spotify playlist for the people that we talked about today, the 27 club members we spoke about today. I am the Mystic Michaela on Spotify. I am not verified or special in any way over there, so you just have to find me. Also, I have, on my playlist there, you'll see a bunch of aura color playlists, too. So you'll know it's me by all the aura color, MMSF, red aura, MMSF, turquoise aura playlist. So you'll see that there, too. And I'll link it in my stories, and I'll put it on the Mystic Michaela Spiritual Family page so you can kind of listen to the playlist. Because you're probably all into it if you've listened to this far the way we are now. So I'm ready for it.
It's got to have a lot of Door songs on it. I've been singing Door songs all week. So
all right, we'll put a good little mix on there.
All right.
Yeah, I'm excited.
All right.
Thank you so much for spending some time with us today. This podcast is for you and about you, and we love you, so take care.